everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new video tutorial. Today I want to share with you how to use the GoPress and foil machine from Couture Creations. This is a fabulous machine that gives you some beautiful foil transfer effects. So this is the machine and it comes in two pieces. You have the platform and you have the base. The base is separate, so you can remove the platform to be able to run it through your die cutting machine because that's how you transfer the foil. This does heat up, so it is a hot surface when it is turned on, so you do want to be careful when you're using it. The silicone pad that you see here is the area that will get hot, so you're just going to want to be careful, like I said, when you're working with this machine. And then the top plate does get a little bit warm, but you can touch it and not have to worry about burning yourself. So when you see the red light flashing, that means the machine is heating up. It's going to have a steady light when it's plugged in, but once you hit that button and it starts flashing, it will be heating up. With your machine, you should also have some little tweezers that help you pick up your hot foil stamps. These are so that way when you're trying to remove a foil stamp from your machine after it's been in there heating up, you won't have to try to pick it up with your hands and worry about burning yourself. These tweezers will help you do that, and they are magnetic for easy lifting. There's a silicone pad as well included with your foiling machine, and this is so that way you can go ahead and lay your hot foil stamps onto this so that they can cool when you're not using them. So some very handy tools are included in this machine. So how do you use this machine? Well, it's very simple. You can see here I've got one of the hot foil stamps already in my machine, and the machine is heating up because you can see that the red light is flashing. We're going to be transferring some of the foil from Couture Creations onto some paper using this hot foil stamp. You want to let the hot foil stamp heat up with the machine. You'll know when everything is ready because the light will now be green. To create a sandwich, you're going to want to go ahead and put your foil face down on top of your hot foil stamp. Then you'll take your cardstock, whatever color you want to use, and lay that on top. I recommend choosing a cardstock that's a little bit larger than the size you're going to want, so that way you can trim it down and kind of fix any areas that might not be straight. I also stick a couple of shims inside my GoPress and foil machine because I want to be able to have a little bit of pressure when I run this through my die cutting machine. I turn the machine off and I take the platform and run it through my Sizzix Big Shot. Now because we have the shims, that's going to add a little pressure into our foiling machine, and when we remove the foil, you can see we have both a beautiful letterpress effect and also that foil transfer. And that's what's really fun about this machine, is that you get not only that beautiful foil, but you also get the letterpress effect. So I'm going to show this to you again one more time. Again, we're going to create the sandwich, and we're going to run our foil and our paper along with a couple of shims through our Big Shot machine or any die cutting machine you have. You will want to go ahead and test out the shims. You may not need a shim inside your machine when you're using the GoPress and foil, or you may find you need only one shim, you may find you need more than one. It all depends on what kind of pressure your machine gives you. Now another fun technique for foiling with this GoPress and foil machine is using embossing folders. Couture Creations has some amazing embossing folders, including this one here, which is a beautiful poinsettia. Now you'll notice, as with any embossing folder, there's an embossed and a debossed side. You're going to want to use the embossed side, so the area that has the raised impression, as you can see here on the left. The area that has the impressions embedded or debossed into the embossing folder, that's the side you do not want to use. So to do this, you're going to want to have a shim, a metal shim, inside of your GoPress and foil machine. This is from Memory Box. You're going to take also a piece of hot foil and your cardstock. Those are going to get laid down face down onto the shim. Then you'll take your embossing folder and lay that face down on top of everything. Next, we'll let that heat up just a little bit and remove it from the base. Then we'll transfer it over to our Big Shot, run it through. I ran it through twice, and then we'll lift it off. Once we lift off the foil, you can see how we get a really beautiful foiled effect on your paper. Now, when I did this, I ended up having a little bit of foil transfer into different areas of my paper. That's no worries though, because there's no impression there. So it's just foil sitting on top of your paper. So if you take a sand eraser and you erase those areas of foil off of the cardstock, it will come off perfectly clean. You won't have any foil left there. We didn't have any impression, or in this case the embossing folder, impressing a design into the paper. So the foil was just sitting on top. So it was very easy to clean up, and you can see now we have some beautiful foiled designs on your paper. Another fun way to use the GoPress and foil machine is to use the hot foil stamps and create a letterpress effect. Here I'm taking one of the hot foil stamps and I'm putting some oxide ink on top of that. This is the picked raspberry ink. I want to use a pigment ink here because I don't want anything that's going to bubble up onto the stamp. A dye ink has a tendency to bubble up and bead onto a surface like this. So by using a pigment ink, we're going to be able to get a really nice transfer to design. I'm taking a piece of white cardstock and I'm going to lay that over top of my inked up foil stamp. My GoPress and foil platform is not hot. I did not have any heat on this. You don't need heat to do the letterpress effect. I'm just going to run that through. Again, no heat, just running it through my Big Shot machine. And then I'll be able to remove the paper and you can see we've transferred that ink and we have a debossed design on our cardstock, and that's creating a really great letterpress design. Now here's another example of how you can do this. This time I'm using dye inks, but we are getting a little bit of beading onto here. However, we're going to resolve that by spritzing this with water and creating a watercolor effect. So I'm going to take some water. I'm going to spritz my hot foil stamp. Again, there's no heat. I'm just spritzing it with some water and I'm going to lay this into the platform of my GoPress and foil machine. Again, I'm not using heat here. I'm just using the pressure. So I'm going to take some watercolor paper and a shim and I'm going to run this entire thing through my Big Shot machine. Once I've done that, I'll go ahead and lift this out and you can see we again have that beautiful letterpress effect, but this time it has a watercolor impression inside it. And it is also an ombre and it looks so beautiful. Okay, so now that we've seen how the GoPress and foil machine works, I wanted to share with you the cards that I made using the foiled projects that I worked on in the video. So first let me show you quickly some of the foiled results that we have here. This one was the silver foil on green. This was the beautiful ombre effect that we got by using distress inks and using them with water and putting that letterpressed style into the card. You can see the relief that you get and it's a really beautiful result. Again, another silver and green, and then we have a red and gold. So this foiling with the GoPress and foil is a really fun transfer effect. And you can see some of the different card ideas. This one here features the stamp set that went with the embossing folder, and I also used a couple of other Simon stamp sets to stamp the snowflakes around my tree. Then I used an ink blending tool with some fired brick distress ink and put a little bit of a darker coloring along the edges, letting the center area with the tree be a little bit brighter. And then matted that onto some white cardstock and some Nina Desert Storm. And for a bit of color, I also popped a little blue or tealish colored ribbon up at the top. And that really draws your attention and complements the red on this card beautifully. Here's another idea. This one was done with the technique of doing the letterpress with the Distress Oxide ink, and you can see how beautiful an effect you get with that oxide ink because it's got that pigment ink. It transfers so beautifully. It's an opaque ink, and you really get some nice results. And again, it has a little bit of relief. Now you can see I also have some relief with some Nouveau drops that I added around the edges, along with some beautiful floral images from a Simon Says stamp set that actually is no longer available, but you can find lots of other Simon sets that have similar leaves and beautiful flowers that you can create the same similar results. So I colored each of those. They were outlines with Copics, and then I added some Nouveau drops in certain areas and mounted that onto some patterned paper. And I love that letterpress look. It's a really great and fun technique. And you can see that you get some really nice results, again, with that oxide ink because it is a pigment dye fusion. So you've got that pigment ink that helps transfer a beautiful, crisp image onto your projects. Here's another one. This one uses the embossing folder, and you can see that this was the one that had a little bit of that foil transfer to the center of the card panel. And you can see it came out beautifully. There's no foil left onto the card because we used that sand eraser that got rid of all that extra foil that was sitting on top. So if you have a sand eraser or if you don't have one, I would encourage you to use that when you're creating projects like this. If you have any areas that accidentally get some foil transferred onto your projects, it erases perfectly with that eraser. So I used a few stamp sets from some of our Simon Christmas sentiments. This one is the Believe set, and it has some beautiful smaller sentiments that pair nicely with that Believe. I used navy embossing powder from Simon to go ahead and create that beautiful color on there, and it just goes so nicely with the silver. It's a very beautiful and elegant Christmas design. I also used some Nuvo drops in different areas to bring in some more color and a little bit of dimension. This is a pretty flat card, so it's perfect for mailing your Christmas cards, and it's also very easy to replicate. So if you wanted to make a bunch of these, you could really use this design for creating lots of Christmas cards very easily. Okay, the last one with the foiling on it. This one has a little bit more of a distressed look because I did have some areas that didn't transfer completely. I needed to have a little bit more pressure. But I really actually like it. I like how it has that distressed look and it's not perfect because, again, handmade cards are never perfect. So I like that. I used both a gold for embossing powder and I used some white enamel accents on the different areas around this background. That helps draw in some interest to the red and gold. And I also did some ink blending along the edges. A fun thing about this foil is that it resists ink that you apply over top of it, or at least dye-based inks. I've not tried it with any more permanent type of inks like a hybrid ink, but dye inks will not transfer onto the foil. They come right off. So you can just take a rag and buff off any ink that might be sitting on top, and you get perfect foiled results. So I really like that. And the sentiment was from that stamp set that coordinates with the embossing folder. So I hope that these cards and the techniques that I shared in this video have inspired you to try out the new Couture Creations GoPress and foil machine that we've just got into Simon Says Stamp. And I hope you will be checking it out and also trying out some of these ideas on your own. So thanks so much for stopping by and spending some time with me today. I will be back again on Monday with another video to share. But until then, thanks for watching and I'll see you again soon.